Hello, good afternoon, and welcome back to this next session here at Automotive Logistics and Supply Chain North America Live. Great to have you all join us again today. I think we've had some interesting discussions, so it's been a great day so far. So looking forward to this next session, which will be looking at technology fueling the recovery and accelerating transformation. It's clear that the need to improve efficiency and cost savings across the supply chain has never been greater for OEMs and tier suppliers under increased pressure and scrutiny to deliver more for less. We'll explore the latest supply chain innovations and technologies that are making this possible, future-proofing processes and systems, and crucially, discussing how the right technology and strategy will also drive operational excellence. So it gives me great pleasure to have a great panel of speakers lined up for today. So today I'm joined by Adam Pieniazek from Senior Supply Chain Logistics North America from Magna Powertrain. We also have August Drake, Director of Application Engineering from Seegrid, and of course Amlan Bose, who's VP for Global Business Application and Digital Transformation at DSV. So thank you everybody for joining me today. Really pleased to have you here for this discussion. Looking forward to a very interesting discussion. So just to kind of kick things off, we have a poll that I'd like to launch, and I'll launch that now. Bear with me a second. So the poll, as you will see, so we were all faced with major challenges overnight, and we quickly had to adapt in order to stay productive and profitable. What were some of the largest or new hurdles that emerged? Keeping production moving, budget freezes, increased labor shortages, adaptation of new technologies and or processes. So feel free to get involved in the poll, and we'll circle back to see the results as they start to come in as well. So so I'd like to kick off the conversation talking about some of the challenges that we face in today's supply chain and logistics functions versus, of course, the future planning. So with that, Adam, let's have your thoughts on how you're seeing the supply chain. I know you always have some interesting thoughts and ideas of how you see that supply chain kind of in today's world and the future as well.
Thank you, Neemish, for the opportunity to talk about this subject matter, technology. I do have a sweet spot for this idea. So let me just take a step back. I work for Magna Powertrain. We're one of the groups that is part of the Magna family. Magna as a whole is a tier 1 automotive supplier. We are the 3rd largest in the world. We happen to be number 1 in North America. My role as a senior manager of logistics is to work with the 10 divisions or manufacturing locations for Magna Powertrain in North America. That includes Canada, US, and Mexico. And as you mentioned, I guess you could argue my main focus is always to drive for savings, look for opportunities, and we use fancy words like we're going to drive for efficiencies, we're going to look for the best way of doing things. At the end of the day, it's about cost savings. How do we drive down the cost of our product so that we can continue to be in business? Magna International is going through a lot of changes recently. We have a new CEO. Our new CEO, Swami, was our chief technical officer, as well as other roles that he played for the last couple of years. And it's a little bit of a new vision. Part of the vision is for Magna to become a technology company in the mobility space market, if you will. which is interesting because I think many of us assume that it's all about the automotive space. And I think he's got a broader vision because it's changing. We know that the automotive market, as an example, is being faced with changes and is being pushed along as well. So we are seeing electric vehicles, autonomous vehicles, as well as the whole idea of the ownership model being challenged as to what is the future. So as part of corporate, we tend to think about things a little bit longer term. We look at things in a 5 to 10 year period of time. So when we talk about technology, we're talking about things that are happening today, 5 years, 10 years from today, and we are going to see a lot of disruptions in the market. The manufacturing locations, or at the divisional level, they are much more immediate. Their attention is really geared towards not having an impact on production, on the production lines today, so that they don't have any impact for the customer. So they're very singly focused as to where they're going. And our role is to look at new technology, new systems and processes, and try to put it into a format where it becomes more easily adopted. When you talk about the Magna organization, we have committees that are dedicated to best practices. We have world-class manufacturing. We have centers of excellence. We have OpEx, which is operational excellence. We have traditional departments that look at it, whether we're talking about IT or engineering or R&D. A lot of times engineering and R&D are focused on product. IT could be spread out a little bit more, talking about the processes and the software technology that's there, that's available. We know that if we have good information, we can make better decisions. There's been a tremendous push recently on focus of data integrity, how to maintain it, who's maintaining it, and then how are we using it in order to make these better decisions of what we can do. These are some of the things that Magna is challenged with, and it's no different than others. And we're just trying to figure out how to look at technology and understand that we can have a cross-functional team to make sure that the needs of the team are being met within the environment that we're in and our capabilities. And those are some of the challenges that we face on a day-to-day basis.
Interesting. Thanks, Adam. That's great and interesting. You talk about Magna and its evolution, going from, of course, huge manufacturer of parts and to being a technology company. I guess, how do you manage that kind of dialogue internally and that change internally, right? So what does that mean for the employees there? What does that mean for when you're communicating to your customers as well?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges is always, what does that mean for the individual employee? How does it impact their day-to-day operations? And where's the vision going to take them in the near future? It's important, and Magna does an excellent job of communicating, hopefully over-communicating, using many streams within the organization to communicate with the employees, to let them know where they're going, how they fit into the overall structure. Magna has the Magna Charter, which helps to lay out some of the foundations. And even though technology is changing rapidly, those core values don't change. That culture hopefully doesn't change dramatically, but that it evolves and gets better. So those are some of the things we saw, for example, with COVID last year. It really stressed the importance for flexibility of the workforce. I was trying to remember how many different platforms we normally use, whether it's WebEx, whether it's GoToMeetings, whether it's Zoom, whether it's Teams. How many different meetings that we've use on a regular basis between ourselves and with our stakeholders, whether they're customers or suppliers. We had to get up to speed relatively quickly. You can argue that 2020 was an unprecedented year for change and disruption, and it became imperative that we were still able to communicate and work with one another to achieve the objectives. And give us work from home. We went from a lockout period to focusing on how do we operate under a pandemic, and what does the work life look like differently? How do we protect the employees, which was very key and very fundamental. Magna came up with the SMART playbook, which basically documented the process, which was shared with all the employees, which was excellent. Because there was a lot of fear, there was a lot of unknowns, and there were a lot of good things that happened. Again, when you have all the information, making decisions is easy. One of the challenging things is sometimes you don't always have all the information, and sometimes things change differently than what you expected. Even though you're trying to be on top of the industry, you're trying to be on top of the latest news and developments, things change sometimes almost unpredictably.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think what you're saying about the kind of the employees is extremely relevant, and what's happening there on the kind of the ground floor is extremely important. So with that, let's get some comment from August on this subject as well. August, of course, you're right there in terms of operating on the ground level there with your systems and robots, if I can call them robots. I can AMRs, AGVs, so many different terms for that. But how do you see this kind of evolving and changing, and what are you seeing there on the ground floor level?
Yeah. So I think there was already a lot of desire from a customer perspective to find automation solutions that were flexible. But if nothing else, this pandemic has escalated that need and really just showed how critical it is for solutions of any kind, automation and otherwise, to adapt to business needs as they change, and also to be able to adapt quickly. So we've definitely seen a fundamental shift in, that becoming a lot more desirable. Nut and bolt conveyors will always have a place, but it is interesting to see how customers are trying to start to apply different technologies to these challenges that they're facing as a result of the pandemic. And, at Seegrid, our AMRs, which we are AMRs, are really a good solution to a lot of those areas and those challenges.
Thanks. Thank you, August. That's really interesting. I think implementing kind of automation change comes with its challenges of kind of getting people to kind of buy into that, and where's the most efficient. Finding those efficiencies and driving that is key to all of this, right? So, how do you kind of manage that change?
Yeah, at Seegrid, so I'm the director of application engineering. So it all starts within pre-sales activity before there's even robots running around. My team consists of industrial and systems engineers, and our sole purpose is to be a consultant for our customers when they're starting their automation journey with AMRs. So we come in, we really get down into the weeds on process, people, overall layout. We really try to make sure we fully understand the problems and challenges that customer will face, so that our solution with our technology is in line with the goals of the overall business and the operation. And, again, too, making sure that we think forward a little bit as far as our customers know forward, right? So making sure there's some flex in that solution, but also starting to build the foundation of understanding of our tech so that our customers can, adapt their solution as they move forward with us and without us, making sure they have the right tools to do it on their own as well if they choose to. Implementation is also really key. So adoption, it comes from a couple different levels. Corporate adoption of technology are the things that you're seeing Adam and his team do. They know that that has to be part of the vision of the future. They know that that has to be part of their company strategy. But the adoption at the operational level is a completely different ballgame. It's driving understanding of the tech and how it benefits, the folks on the floor from a safety and overall capacity standpoint, especially in situations where labor is so hard to find, and it's not even necessarily a game of replacement anymore. It's a game of expansion of what your existing team can do. So for implementation, walking customers through what that adoption process has to look like from a change management perspective. So making sure they're on the floor, on-site operators understand what they're supposed to do to drive the system, making sure leadership understands what they're supposed to do or what information they should be asking for or looking for from that system or that operation to make sure that it's in line with the goals that were initially set for that solution. And then also to back up to corporate, making sure they have what they need to react when the operation needs support, or they know what the process is for support. Or if, again, to business plans change, how are you going to adapt that solution to now meet the new business need?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks. I think that actually kind of leads quite nicely onto Amlan and the work that he's done there as well. So Amlan, I know you spent many years working for Ford and implementing their working across their emerging markets division and implementing a system a system across that network as well. So and now, of course, working for DSV on the other side. Give us some views of what you've seen then and what you see now, and how you see things evolving as well.
Well, thanks, Neemish, and thank you very much to Adam and August also for very poignant points that they made. I think it's a huge change from being on the other side of the table in Ford Motor Company for 22 years, and now on this side where you're one of the LSPs, service providers in the logistics and supply chain and warehousing solutions field. Particularly the division that I belong to is the lead logistics of the 4PL division. So it is quite interesting to see the world suddenly from the other side of the table, as against what I'm used to in the last 22 years. That is also putting me in a very unique position to be able to see both sides and bring a much more sensible discussion, a much more balanced discussion to the larger audience. What I would like to do, and obviously I don't intend to talk through the slides, but just to have a reference point, if I can shift the focus and attention of the audience to a little larger canvas of the platform which we already have today in terms of the Industry 4.0. Now, obviously, having started 2010, 2011 back in Germany, it took almost 10 years for the industry to really catch up, and we have started seeing organizations kind of just beginning to talk about Industry 4.0. Now, all the challenges, the technological challenges, the application, the software, ERP, all the challenges that we saw in last year because of COVID, I think Industry 4.0 almost as if have a secret mantra in it. If only we can, take the leap of faith and embrace it. So, in its essence, as we all know, it's an admixture of a cyber and a physical ecosystem. It brings the real and the virtual world together, and then once it brings the real and the virtual together, there is really infinity is the possibility, because then it can link your ERPs and all the tools that you use in the supply chain logistics, forecasting and optimization, network planning, and all of that it can bring it. So for 2-3 decades, if you see what we have done is we have invented a machine, and we have invented computers, and we have put computers into the machine, and we created CNC machines, and we got the benefit of that. Manufacturing really revolutionized with the CNC machines. Similarly, on the automobile side, or the trucks or the vehicles, we have put computers into them, and we started getting connected vehicles. And we are talking of Adam and August speaking about mobility today in pretty much all the organizations getting into that space of mobility. But what now the Industry 4.0 is making us to do is to connect the machine with the vehicles or the truck or the ship or the entire gigantic logistics machinery with the people all together. If we all connect, that's basically the platform of the 4.0. Now, 4.0 is throughout the organization. So you all also have to, if you are in manufacturing, we have to have the key tenets of manufacturing 4.0. If you're in logistics and supply chain, we have to similarly have the tenets of the logistics 4.0, supply chain 4.0, as we call it. Now, under the 4.0, the machines and the men are connected. The machines are connected to the machines. And as August would know much better because she's in that robotics field, we are looking at not only the machine or the component coming to the robots, but the robots going from job to job and across the plant floor system and doing its job, which is already programmed. And also the machines or the parts or the components sending messages to the robots, what activity or more processing needs to be done to me, and then the right robots can come to it. And also we are kind of seeing an explosion of activity, which is possible when you connect the machine with the data, and with the data, and you connect the whole cyberspace into it, and then there is no limitation to it. So this basically, and when you add the whole data analytics portion of it, the silent maths which is working behind all the algorithms, and then you add the power of the AI and the ML and the machine learning, the deep learning, you now have huge, tremendous possibility into the same shop floor which you used to have in the last 2-3 decades. Now you have a tremendous possibility because any programmer sitting anywhere in the world can now program the shop floor and talk to the equipments, to the robots, and make them function. And the other beauty of it is machine learning from itself, from its own mistake, and not repeating the mistakes again in the future. So that's something which helps to remove the human factor from these error makings. Coming to the logistics 4.0, I think one of the biggest change I foresee would be driving a truck or from A to B, perhaps would be seen as the least value-added activity, because I feel the future drivers will not just be drivers, but they would be logistics or supply chain professionals. Neither the trucks would be simply a truck for carrying a good, but it will be a highly computerized, cloud-connected computer on board, so that any logistician or supply chain analyst with that knowledge driving the truck, constantly getting AI-powered, cloud-connected computers telling them where to go next. And instead of going from A to B to C, go from A to C, because the algorithm tells you that something has changed recently, whether an act of God or a better customer order or a better customer fulfillment, and hence you take the D2. So the inventory, which so far was seen as an overburden, overhead, static inventory, today can be, with the connections that we have with millions of trucks throughout the world, not only trucks, the containers, the ships, the planes, today now can be accessed, and you can actually start seeing them as a warehouse on wheels, which can be capitalized or monetized, because you can act upon that whole value of goods which is in transit. Now, all of that, behind all of that, remember, it's a human factor, because the machine will never be able to think, but it is and when the machines and the data are coming together, the only factor which can think and be a challenger to that or be an obstructionist to that is a human factor. So we all always have to go back to the human centricity and human ingenuity and human intuitiveness as a central figure, and we have to continue to invest on the human, because that can be the challenging aspects of it. So and at the end, leadership 4.0, because it's not going to be easy, it's going to be highly challenging. So it calls for a huge amount of drive, focused attention, and a very strong resolve, because 4.0 journey is not something where one can be half pregnant. You need a full commitment right from top to bottom. I think that's the kind of technological leap forward that we need in the next decade or so.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Amlan. I think it might be interesting to kind of hear the thoughts of the panel on this, as we there's always lots of talk about Industry 4.0, and of course we're all on that path already, right? So, how do you see this kind of moving forward? And of course and something that we were talking about before we joined the session, where we're talking about change and organizational change and those kind of behaviors that are there. And love to hear your thoughts on that. Adam or August, whoever wants to chime in, I'll leave it to you.
I'll grab that one.
Okay.
I think when we talk about technology, it starts with a very simple concept, which is how do we define it? I think in its simplest form, technology is making mankind's life easier, is what the goal is. And that's fine as a goal. The question that we're always struggling with is how do we do that in a practical manner? And I think that's our biggest challenge. It's, as we like to say, technology is not necessarily the solution. There's a lot of things behind it that have to come into play. And I think where the challenge is how are we going to collaborate, cross-functionally work within the organization, work outside the organization, and make sure that we're clear on what we're trying to accomplish so that when we adopt that technology, it does what it's supposed to be doing for us. Those are some of the bigger challenges. I don't disagree. I know that there's a human element to it. We may argue that the truck drivers of the future are going to be all autonomous. We're going to talk about supply chains being different than what they look like today. Today, the model of the mega mall we see is changing. We see that it's going to be driven more towards the customer experience and what are they looking for from convenience. I would bet most of us during the last year have ordered more items online. Those are examples of the changes that are coming. And even though we can see them, we're not always sure what they're going to look like.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'll just follow up. I mean, I think Industry 4.0 is obviously a somewhat of a buzzword, but also a very real thing. And I think, it's interesting to see companies work towards that. Again, because right now there's multiple players in that effort, right? There's data side of the house, there's automation side of the house, there's a marriage between those two, but then there could be multiple systems supporting all of that Industry 4.0. And I think it will be interesting to see how goals align and how they drive that overall communication and system as a whole, rather than, the subparts. And I think we already see customers starting to really think bigger picture. So full facility integration, data aligning from one system with another, communicating with each other, not necessarily just reporting out separately. So it will be interesting to see how it transforms. And I think a lot of vendors such as ourselves are starting to really see those patterns emerge and really working closely with our customers to try to figure out, how we can translate what we do to the bigger picture of Industry 4.0.
Yeah, I guess it is about joining up all the pieces, right? But I guess, underlying all that, there's this speed and pace of technology that's evolving so rapidly, right? So how do you manage to keep pace with that, right? So by the time you've kind of done your assessment, done your evaluation, said this is the system, but then 6 months down the line, that technology has already kind of been superseded, right? So how do you maintain that pace?
Yeah, I think from the Seegrid perspective, the way we're maintaining pace, at least from a support with our customers, is we're trying to build a technology that is, not standalone, right? There's still the adoption piece that always will come into play, and making sure that all levels of the organization are aligned. But we're working towards a technology that has that flexibility, so that on a dime you can rapidly redeploy that system to now suit the need that you now have, or to potentially put the previous solution on hold and shift focus over to this solution to keep up with demand for that specific period of time. So I think, again, too, when you're thinking about technology, that flexibility is just so key. And it's just becoming, again, it's a bigger and bigger selling point and need, truly, to have that flexibility within your automation solutions.
Yeah, absolutely. And Adam, from your perspective, of course, you're busy dealing with today's issues, right? So there are today's challenges that you deal with. How do you kind of balance that kind of, dealing with today's challenges versus kind of being able to take that time and assess what you need and then doing that planning?
Yeah, I think one of the challenges is to review the available technology. We normally like to take what we'll call baby steps. So we'll bring it on slowly so that we get some exposure and experience with it. We always want a flexible platform. We don't want to invest just in hardware and finding out that it becomes obsolete very quickly. And these are some of the challenges, because you have to take a plunge somewhere. If you're waiting for the perfect solution, if you're waiting, you'll wait forever before you make a decision. You just have to take all the available information, make the best decision, and move forward, and pray the system is flexible to keep up with the changes that are coming, because you know that it's going to happen. And you can't be afraid to make necessarily a mistake. So I think you mitigate the risk by taking smaller steps. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that's always the way, isn't it? Take small steps, and then that also leads back to kind of how you manage that change on a personnel level as well, right? And being able to guide the people through that whole process as well.
Absolutely.
Which is great. I'm sorry we lost Amlan during this conversation. Clearly, we need to do some work on the technology side. There is, of course, key to all of this technology is the ability to actually connect and be part of that. So I think certainly from an infrastructure perspective, there certainly needs to be some work done on that side of things. So I'm sure Amlan would have commented on the work that he's been doing around quantum computing. I know he's got a big he's a big fan of that and has done a lot of work onto that. And that of course is another step to be able to kind of more advanced technology requires the ability to process more information and quickly as well, to then ensure it winds up in the right hands at the right time. So I think I'll share that from his perspective. I know we've had numerous conversations about it, so I'm sure, hope he doesn't mind. I'll probably owe him something else for that now. Yeah, I think just kind of maybe one final comment from you guys. If there's one thing that you want to kind of see implemented from your side, what would that be? We'll go with August first. Go for it.
Yeah, I think implemented in the sense of just an overall openness to change as it pertains to how things have been done in the past. So I think, manufacturing and logistics have been around a very, very, very long time. And I think that it's already happening. The shift is happening. But I think the openness and willingness to explore new automation, to, work with vendors to create something completely different than what you've been used to in the past, I think is exciting, and it's happening. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of that in the coming years, months.
Thank you, August. Adam?
Similar to what August has mentioned, I would say what I would love to see is more of a integration within the organization as well as outside the integration. The industry working seamlessly together would be a wonderful goal. I know there's challenges there. We tend to get stuck in our silos, and I think at the end of the day, if we can break down some of those barriers and better communicate, we can find the solutions. Because everything has to work together at the end of the day. And that really seems to be the challenge of everyone pulling in the same direction in order to come out with the right goal.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Adam. I think that's been a common theme through discussions that we had. The need for greater, dare I say it, collaboration and working together, to identify, where we can make those efficiency gains, work more seamlessly together. So certainly that's certainly something that I'd like to see, and hopefully we can help facilitate that through bringing everybody together to be able to talk about these issues as well. So I think unfortunately, can't bring Amlan back, but I'd like to thank you all for joining me today. It's been a great pleasure to hear your thoughts and on technology. Really fascinating discussion. Of course, make yourself available on the platform if there are people there that want to ask you questions and have further conversations with you about that. But for me, it was really interesting and fascinating discussion. So thank you very much for sharing and being part of this Automotive Logistics Supply Chain North America. We'll move on now to the next. Take a short break, and then we'll reconvene at 16:30 Eastern Time for the next session, which will be looking at network design for the modern era. And we've got a great panel lined up for you there. So thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll see you again shortly.